You're watching Good on Paper, a bookish channel.
Hey.
Hi guys!
Hello everybody!
So we're back, and it's another great week, day in the life of the writer and reader. Sometimes we read more than we write.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Some weeks I really do though.
Yeah. Sometimes you need it. You really need it.
Yeah. Your brain's just like, no more of this writing stuff. We're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just read a really good book. I read, it's not new. I feel like it's new, but it's really not that new. I read, Gilded by Marissa Meyer. I'm just behind on books, but it's new to me. I feel like it's a new release. Anything in the past 3 years is like a new release for me. Yeah, it was actually really good. It is it could be a little older than that, but I feel like it's the past 3 years. But it's like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, which is interesting because that is an interesting fairy tale. You know what I mean? It's not very common for retellings.
Yeah.
And I really fell in love with it because it is based heavily on Germanic folklore, and because I write a series that is based on Anglo-Saxons and Germanic folklore, I'm really familiar with it. So it's Easter eggs for me. I'm like, ooh, I understand this reference. Ooh, I like this reference. And the ending was I probably shouldn't say because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the ending was the exact kind of thing I love in fairy tale retelling. So that's all I'm saying.
Oh.
But, yeah. Yeah. But
now I'm curious because I don't know if you like happy endings or ironic endings, or
it's definitely happy. It's happy and it's very traditional. It used to happen a lot in old stories and old ballads. And I feel like we don't see a lot of it for different reasons. Our society is different these days. And so I just really appreciated it. So it was really good. But I didn't know that it was a duology. So there's a big cliffhanger at the end, and I was like, and I think in the back of my mind, I kind of knew it was duology, but I didn't think about it. So I got to the end, and I was like, yes. When you're practically jumping up and down, because you're sitting down, so you're not really jumping up and down, but you're so excited about a book. And then I was like, what? No, it ends on this cliffhanger. And then because it was Memorial Day weekend, the library didn't open again until Tuesday. And this, I think, was Saturday night or Sunday night. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday night. And I was like, oh no. So I actually checked out the ebook on my phone just to so I could start reading the next book until I could go check it out. But
oh my gosh. You're like, I can't do this. I can't wait.
Yeah. And it was good. There was definitely, it's not an all-time favorite book of mine just because there is some things in it that I didn't really like. They talked about the women in the village and their first experience. But of course that was a long time ago before they met their husband. And I was like, really, guys? It seems a little too modern for me. First of all, I don't like that for religious reasons. But I was like, you're telling me that this fantasy village with no birth control, people were having lovers that they didn't marry, So I didn't like that. And then there was some gender stuff. But other than that, it was super minor, and I loved the whole rest of the book. So definitely recommend that one.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. I've seen it a lot on Instagram and stuff, but I've never read it.
Yeah, it's really good, and I think that's my first Marissa Meyer I ever read, because I know Cinder was really big, but I just love Cinderella so much, and I'm not a big futuristic kind of person. So, and I think isn't it a bionic Cinderella or something like that? And I'm sure I would like it. But it's just one of those things that I was like, no, I'm not going to read it. Anytime I hear about time travel, I'm like, I don't like time travel. I'm not going to read it. And then I will read the book, and I'll be like, I like that. But there are certain things that I'm like, no, don't read that.
There's certain tropes and stuff that you just don't well with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I don't I love fantasy, and I hate that people assume that because you love fantasy, you love sci-fi. I hate sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like
I like it every once in a while, but
I'll watch a movie or a TV show that's sci-fi occasionally, but I don't read it. Like,
me too.
I've read one sci-fi book in my life.
Yeah, I never read sci-fi. I will watch it more often than I read it because I watched. Oh my gosh, Andor is really good. It's on Disney Plus. So Disney Plus, I have very strong feelings about Disney Plus. I have very strong feelings about all these streaming services because they have too many anyway. But like, if you do have Disney Plus, you should watch Andor. It's like it's Star Wars, and I think it's like the people from Rogue One. So, but honestly, you could watch it even if you've never watched anything about Star Wars. I feel like when I watched it, I had just seen Rogue One, but I didn't really remember like anything about it. So I don't think it's necessary to watch Star Wars probably to watch this movie. It's probably really not, or it's a show, but it was really good. Like it was sci-fi, and I was like, yes, this is what I love about sci-fi. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
I don't hate it in movies when it's done well. It's just not. I think I don't like technology in general.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I want the cottagey fantasy stuff where people don't have cell phones and
me too.
They don't have, holograms and all that kind of, like it just doesn't appeal to me.
To me, like if I watch sci-fi, it is not for the technology, which is I think what most people watch it for, because it's mostly men, which like I get, like they're like more into technology because they're like tool focused. You know what I mean? They're very into like tools and like doing stuff.
Yeah.
So
you see that.
But yeah, I like it because I just like the idea of like a different like culture, like on another planet and like a different landscape. To me, that's what gets me about sci-fi. Which honestly, that's fantasy. Like you can get that in fantasy.
Yes,
so like the main draw of sci-fi is like you said, it's technology, and that is like not my draw at all. If anything, that's like a takeaway.
Yeah.
Like
the only sci-fi that I seriously really liked, and I feel like people write books like this and I just don't know about them. But Treasure Planet.
I love Treasure Planet. We just watched that again.
Really? Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. It's like the coolest type of sci-fi. Mm-hmm. Like I just love it so much. Like that kind of sci-fi I would probably read.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I've ever seen a book like that.
Yeah. There's definitely books like that. Like I feel like I've definitely seen one before, and there's probably way more. You know, because it's like because it takes like the old timey like pirate thing.
Yeah.
And like puts it in space. I really like that too. So I feel like you would probably really like steampunk stuff, which I sometimes enjoy. But sometimes I just feel like it's such like a thing that I don't like it. Do you know what I mean? Like steampunk is very like it has like I would like something that's like it, but not like in the steampunk genre. You know what I mean? Like that takes that idea but does something different with it. I feel like I would like more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's all too like falls into the same exact line and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has its tropes and its cliches. And it's because like people who like that like the same thing. Like I will read a million fairy tale retellings. They are all so similar. And like that's good for me because I really like it. But like somebody who didn't like fairy tale retellings, they'd be like, okay, I want to read something that's like fairy tale retelling, but like a different spin on it. And that's how I feel like I'm just not like a steampunk person. Like I feel like people who actually enjoy the genre probably like it being all really similar to each other. But because like that's not my genre, I'd want to read something like refreshing.
Yeah.
And that's why like when people have reviews, I try and like take them with like a grain of salt, because a lot of times people will review a fairy tale retelling and they'll be like, oh, this is the same old thing. It wasn't very original. You know, I didn't enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I look at that and I'm like, this is probably just a person who fairy tale retellings are not their thing. So they're bored by like the constant reiteration. I will probably love this book. So I go ahead and I read it, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what I really like about bad reviews is because people will complain about things that they don't like, but it might be something that I really like. Yeah. So I love reading bad reviews because a lot of times it helps me decide whether I want to read a book. And that's why I feel like, you know, for authors, getting a bad review can also help you find readers who like these things that people are complaining about, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like if you read a book and you didn't like it, like, go ahead and leave the author a review and say so, because I feel like that's more helpful than not leaving a review. Because at least then you can help the author get more readers. If you don't leave a review at all, they just have, like, fewer reviews, and that never helps anybody, you know? Because people, like, they judge books, and if they see your book has, like, 10 reviews, they're like, yeah, must not be very good. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's true. I mean, when I go looking for books, sorry to all my fellow indie authors, I'm such a hypocrite because, I mean, I don't have that many reviews, but I do look at the number of reviews because that's how many people have liked this book so far. So usually if it has like 10, I'm probably not going to read it unless I know the author it was personally recommended.
Or you read
so I usually look at I'll look at the number of reviews, and then as far as actual reviews, I don't read any of them except to find out if it's not clear in the description of the book. I'll look at the reviews to find out if it's clean or not. Or if there's like any like triggering content or something. And if there's like any like majorly annoying tropes, like somebody dies at the end, or I don't know, she doesn't pick any of the guys or something like that. But for the most part, I don't really care that much what other people say about the book, because I figure I'm going to have my own opinion, and I don't know if I trust you. I don't know you. I don't know if I trust your opinion, so it doesn't really mean anything to me. I would rather just go read the sample of the book and decide if I'm interested than to rely on somebody that I've never met before.
Exactly. And then sometimes, like, I try, like, sometimes I read reviews before I read the book, but I try not to, because I feel like then it influences, like, if somebody brings up something, then, like, you might notice something that you wouldn't have noticed on your own, and it might influence, like, your interpretation of the book. So I generally try not to, but occasionally I'll just, like, look, and then somebody's one will catch my eye, and I'll just be like, click, and I'm just, like, really, like, cautiously reading it. But yeah, I don't know. I think bad reviews are great. Like, as a reader, you know what I mean? They tell you a lot about a book, you know, and sometimes, like, a bad review can really help you decide, like, if you're going to like a book or not, you know, because there's a lot of things that people hate in books that I love. Like, so if they're complaining about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to read this.
And I feel like, too, it's more so the number of bad reviews. If multiple people are saying the same thing, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this book really does not have that problem. Versus if one person says the MC was really annoying, I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're annoying because you're the only person who thought that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it depends on, like, what they think.
Like, but if, like, 10 or 15 people all say the same thing, I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe that actually is true.
Exactly. Like, if I see a bunch of reviews and it's like the MC is like too passive and she's always crying and she's always like fainting and stuff, I like MCs like that. So if I see a bunch of people complaining about that, I'm like, I'm diving in. You know? Or if they're like,
exactly.
It was really slow and too descriptive, I'm like, sounds like my kind of book. I'm reading this, you know?
Or like when somebody says that he was too much of an alpha male, and I'm like, I like that.
And they're like, this guy was so toxic. I mean, sometimes there are men who are like actually toxic. Sometimes I feel like they're just like really like alpha male types, and like people just don't like that, so they just call them toxic. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm reading this.
I'm like, I think we'll get along.
Exactly. And I think there's a way to do it. Like, when I say you should leave bad reviews, like, there's definitely a way to do it. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, this book was so bad, because you just can be like, I personally didn't like it because it had an alpha male and I'm not into that. It had this and I'm not into that. You can be clear, like, you know, if you think it was too slow or the writing was, you can even like say something about like the writing, like maybe you didn't think the writing was good because of, you know what I mean? Because like, there's probably going to be somebody who enjoys whatever that is, you know, and it will help them. It'll help them decide whether to read it or not, you know.
And I'll also say that as an author, I say this like, take this with a grain of salt, guys. As an author, negative reviews are also helpful because it tells me what maybe isn't working that I'm doing. I mean, please still say it kindly, though.
Yeah, and don't tag anybody.
Yeah.
Like, don't tag anybody, but, like, you can still write it. Like,
yeah, like, if I have 5 people who all say that, you know, this moment in the book didn't make sense to them, or this character was really annoying, or this part was really repetitive, or whatever, if I have multiple people telling me that, then I know to go back and look at it and ask myself if I think that's true. So it's kind of helpful as an author, too, to be like, okay, maybe they're right, and this is kind of a problem, and I can, like, you know, kind of work on that or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe it could be that's just not, like, the kind of books they like, because then you might have, like, 10 other people who are like, I really liked this character.
Yeah.
You know, most people don't like this kind of character, but I love this kind of character.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why it's good, like, no matter what your opinion is, like, get it out there, because it really does help readers and, like, authors. But yeah, if you're writing, like, a negative review, just don't tag the author in it. That way they can look at it if they wish. You know, they're not like, oh, somebody tagged me.
Yes, I do appreciate that most people save their really negative stuff for Goodreads instead of Amazon. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because on Amazon, if you do it lower than 3 stars, I think it's like 3 stars and under, it ranks it as a negative review, which I think for a product is smart. Yeah. But, like, for a book review, like, 3 stars isn't necessarily a bad review.
For some people, that's good.
Yeah. Because, like, anything that I liked, I generally will rate 3 stars. If I really liked it, it'll be 4. And if it's, like, my absolute take this book with me on a desert island, it's 5 stars. And I've changed that, because I used to rate, like, everything 5 stars. But now I'm like, you know what? Like, 5-star reads for me are going to be, like, this is, like, my dream book. And then 4 stars is, like, something I really like. And then 3 stars is just something that, like, it was a nice passage of time. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed it. You know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, it's not a negative review at all. But, so, I
agree.
Yeah, I don't post those. A lot of times, actually, 3-star review books for me are traditionally published books, which I don't normally post on Amazon. I'll just put them on Goodreads. Because I feel like with indie books, I'm pickier. You know, I'll read, like, a whole bunch of traditionally published books, and sometimes I don't like them. With indie books, I only read stuff like I, like, know I'm gonna love. So they generally tend to be 4-star reads anyway, or up. Like,
I feel like I'm picky with choosing my indie books, but I feel like sometimes I've read everything, and then I'm like, well, there's nothing to read.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll read this. So I personally, and this is a personal thing, just because I guess I'm too sensitive. I don't review, like, ever, unless I'm really, really mad about something. Yeah. Because unless I have something really, 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 really nice to say, I just don't want to make the author feel bad about something that was a personal preference for me. I'm like, somebody else has probably already said this to reviews. As an author, I already know how it feels to see it, so I just don't want to. That's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I also am not like you. I'm not super generous with 5 stars, so I don't just rate everything 5 stars. I'm like, if I really, really, really loved it, sure. So like, I don't do ARC reads ever, because I'm like, I don't want to. Because I feel like I should give a positive review, but I'm so picky. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to. And that's really what they're hoping for in an ARC reader. Not that that's what you have to do, but that's what they hope you're going to do. So I'm like, I'm just not going to do an ARC read, because I just, you know.
And I think there's something to be said for reviews that people in, like, the indie author community don't talk about. And that is, yes, because you always hear reviews help authors, Yes, but reviews make reading stressful. Like, and I think if you just want to read in private, and you don't want people to know what you're reading, you don't want to put on Goodreads, you don't want to review all these books, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it helps authors, and, like, you know, if you can find it in your heart to do it, but, like, if you really just want to be private about what you read, because I sometimes think that's what can keep you from reading. If you're like, feel that pressure to write the review, because then it's like doing a book report every time you read. And then sometimes, like, you want to read stuff and you don't want to comment on it publicly. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you want to be private about what you read. And, like, I think that's okay. And I don't think anybody should feel bad that they read books and they don't review them. You know?
Yeah. I agree. And, like, I feel like I don't like, especially, like, if they're people I know that have written the book, and then you feel pressured to give a 5-star review. I just say I don't give reviews in general, because I guess I'm really, like, all about my morals or something, because I don't like feeling like I've lied in a review by saying I gave it 5 stars and I didn't really feel that way. It really bothers me. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I will say that I do like that at the end of reading a Kindle book, I can just click the stars and nobody knows that I rated it or what I rated it. It's just there. That I don't mind doing, but writing reviews, like, it's just so stressful. There's so much pressure. You don't want to offend people, and you also feel like you have to say all the right stuff, and it's just,
Yeah. Reviews are really, really tricky.
Yeah.
Because I used to be so scared. I would never put anything negative in a review.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten better about that. And I do, I'll say things, but I generally, I'll phrase it like, wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Like, and because it is really true. That's the thing. Because, occasionally, very rarely do I read books where, it's literally, the technical part of the writing is bad, because I always read the sample first. So if it's, that bad, I generally won't even, read past the first page. So I read books that don't have too many technical issues. So for me, it's just, I didn't connect to this character. I didn't like the plot because this, and this, And so I've gone better about, saying it. But, yeah, it's hard, when you know somebody really well, too, because you don't want to make them feel bad. But, your book is just not going to be for everybody,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. And that's okay.
Yeah. I think it's hard when you're creating, this art or whatever, because you want everybody to like it and you want everybody to like you by extension.
Yeah.
So it's just not possible. Can't, meet the desires and needs of every reader everywhere. And that's okay, because you're writing the book you wanted to write, not
exactly
the book everybody wanted you to write.
Yeah. And there's such a separation too. I think we tie ourselves to our book so much, but some of my favorite people, writers I know, I love them to death. And I feel like we get along so well. Whatever they write isn't my top favorite book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's okay. And then there are other writers on there who literally write my dream book, but we're not as good friends and we're not as similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is a difference between your friendships with your writing friends and the books they write. The person that you are such good friends with might not write your particular absolute favorite style of books. And that's okay. And then some other person that you just really don't get along with might write your ultimate, this book was written for me book.
Yeah.
And I think we feel oh, well, the person who wrote this must be so much like me. That's not always true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this isn't really a problem for anybody who is not a writer. I feel like this happens in the indie author community. This is a very niche problem, because I don't think a lot of readers are friends with a lot of authors. So
true. I think sometimes when a reader messages an author and talks to tells the author how much they loved it and stuff, they anticipate for you to be like the characters you wrote, or to be the voice you used while you were writing. And while that is you, it's also not totally you. So you're not just the same as the thing you've written.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah. And there's probably some people who have a Bookstagram who maybe do have a lot of author friends, even though they don't write. But yeah, if you're not on book writing social media, this is probably not an issue for anybody.
No.
It's just an issue for us. We're I don't want to make this person feel bad because, I message them practically every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I guess tastes are a little bit easier, more cut and dry than preferences in books. But if your best friend is a baker, but you don't like the cake they bake because they make stuff that you don't like the flavors of or whatever, and you don't want to mean, it's kind of like that. It's okay that you don't like it. It's bad. It's just not your favorite flavor. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because it happens in any friendship, because that's the thing about friendships. Is you're not going to be the exact same as your friend. And also that would be boring. So
it would. It sounds easier, but it's actually really boring.
Yeah, because what would you talk about? Because if you're the exact same, you would know everything they were going to say.
Yeah.
So,
there would be no discussion or back and forth or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really a friendship problem, But friends are the best. I would not give up because friendships can be hard because you don't want to offend people, or if they do offend you, or you have a fight, like the rewards you get from friendship, I feel like are just so much better.
Oh, yeah.
That it's worth it. Like, you know, so be friends with all the authors you want. And it might get like a little awkward if you're leaving reviews, or maybe if you like beta read for them, because that can be awkward too. You know, Rachel and I were just talking about how like it's so anxiety. What is the word? It's a very anxious experience. Like giving feedback and getting feedback. Like it's so anxious. It makes me so anxious when I'm giving feedback. So I'm like, what if I like offend this person? Like, you know.
Yeah.
So
it is. It's really stressful. But I mean, like when I initially saw all the feedback for my book, I made the mistake of reading it all at the one time because I wanted to know basically what it said, and got really overwhelmed and really stressed and really like, oh my gosh, is my book bad? But then as I went through and started revising every chapter, like every comment that my beta reader had made, I was either like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I totally thought that even before I saw the comment you made about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I get what you're saying, but I actually don't think it needs that. And like, not once during the actual revising and using the comments have I actually felt offended or like insecure about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's natural to feel like you're not certain whether or not you're going to hurt somebody in beta reading or relationships or whatever. But yeah, I think it's not so bad as you think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, as long as you keep it like a mix, like I try and like point out anytime I see something I really like, I point it out. Anytime I see something that I don't like as much, I try and explain as much as possible, like why it's not working for me. And people have different feelings on this, but because some people don't want you to offer solutions, but you could offer suggestions for like solutions and they could take it or leave it. But like I said, that's a personal preference. So definitely like your author friend, like just make sure you know like what they want, because some people don't like you like trying to fix it. But even if you do offer suggestions, they are always suggestions just to get them like kind of like started on like a problem solving. You know, it's kind of like a brainstorm problem solve. Then like you're actually telling them how to fix it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think writer friends are fun. It can be a little stressful, but like, you know, as long as you're polite and you're kind and you're like straightforward with people when it comes to like reviewing or beta reading or whatever, like you can like maintain really good friendships with people without it getting stressful or like ruining a friendship or like causing all this drama.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think the key, whether it be reviews or friendships or whatever, is just remember that everybody's preferences are different. And to just remember to approach everything with the idea that I might feel this way, but it doesn't mean everybody else does, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so we started with books and now we're talking about friends. But like, I think bookish friends are the best kind of friends. So I'm glad we went.
My gosh,
we went to this place.
Yeah, highly recommend bookish friends. They are awesome.
Yeah, they really are. You know, because like if you're an introvert and you like to read a lot, they are too. So you know, you don't have to worry about like feeling overwhelmed with the bookish friend. You know,
they won't judge you for being a homebody because they are too.
No,
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, and we're going to start having some bookish friends on the podcast, and that's going to be really fun. But yeah, Rachel and I just need to get our act together because it's a bigger process to like organize an interview with somebody, but it's probably not as big of a process as we're like making it out to be in our heads, honestly.
After we do the first one, it'll probably be pretty easy to do after that.
Yeah. So we're going to be having some guests on soon. So that'll be really fun. Get to talk to more people. And
So if there's anybody you guys in particular want to hear from, let us know too.
Yeah, actually, if you have like an author that you're like obsessed with, you want us to interview, we can try. This author might be too big for us, you know, but we can try.
We'll try to slide into their DMs.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us again.
Yeah, we will see you next week.
Yes, we will. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it, and tune in next week for another episode. And if you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a review so that other people can find us, and we will see you in the future. Bye!